I'm curious, what was the hardest obstacle you had to overcome growing up?
So I had an eating disorder when I was younger. I was 13, 14 years old. To this day, I can't tell you what caused or created it.
Really?
I just remember like I slowly wanted to restrict more food. I wanted to be able to feel more bones
Really?
over my skin. I wanted to be lighter. I wanted to see the scale decreasing. I wanted to be hungry. I wanted to be frail. I don't know why to this day. And
You wanted to be weak.
I wanted to be weak.
Interesting. How old were you?
13, 14 years old. And I mean, it started getting pretty severe to the point where my parents were taking me to the hospital on a regular basis. And they were running tests. I was in and out of the hospital. They diagnosed me with all these different things multiple times. I internally knew I was starving myself.
So what did they diagnose you as, and what were you telling people?
At one point, they thought I had a parasite and a worm from Mexico, from a vacation. They thought I had celiac disease, so they had me, eating no gluten for a period of time. And one of the last tests they did on my body was they put me under and they put a tube down my throat to look into my stomach. And what they realized was the food from the day before was still sitting in my stomach. So my organs weren't working. They weren't digesting this food. And I was essentially killing myself through this process. And I remember one day, like my mom would take me out of school and she'd take me to the doctor's appointment at the Hershey Medical Center, what felt like on a weekly basis at this point. And we would drive into the medical center and we'd turn towards the clinics and the emergency room section. But this last trip we ever took, we pulled into the Hershey Medical Center, and instead of turning left, we turned right on this one day, and it was the outpatient clinic. And we pulled into this building, and on the building, it read eating disorder clinic. And at that moment, I knew, I was like, I'm caught.
Ooh, because they did everything else, and they're like, oh, he doesn't have this stuff. He's doing it himself.
Yep.
How long did that take? A year, 6 months?
It's probably a year.
Really?
It was a year.
And so you were essentially lying. You knew the whole time, but you were doing all these tests, but you just didn't want to say, I'm doing this intentionally.
Right.
Wow.
So I remember that day where we walk up, I can picture it like it was yesterday. We walk up these set of stairs into this outpatient clinic, and I sit down with this doctor, and he literally just confronts me right away. We know what you've been doing. We know you've been starving yourself.
Wow. And
I broke down, just crying. And I turned to my mom and said, I'm done, I'll fix it right now. I was that embarrassed that I didn't want to be in that room. I didn't want to come back to this place. I'll make a conscious effort to get better. And we wrapped up this session and we went home. And I remember opening up the pantry thinking I need to start eating again. And I grabbed this box of Pop-Tarts and I pull out a package, and there's 2 Pop-Tarts per package. And I turn it around and it says 400 calories in 2 Pop-Tarts. And I'm thinking this is probably more than I've been consuming on a day.
Wow.
For most days. And I ate these 2 Pop-Tarts, which was, at the time, relatively one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And I had a very, I started eating and putting weight on after that moment. To say it was like a switch flipped, it wasn't that by any means. For years, I had unhealthy relationships with food. That slowly got better. That's what made me want to study nutrition in college. Wow. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more. But that for me it was a pivotal point in my life. It was very long ago, but I still can remember a lot of those moments like they were yesterday. But it was, I think, fundamental and a foundation for who I am today and what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. Possibly a reason I want to and enjoy helping others, especially in health, fitness, nutrition.
Yeah.
But that was that was challenging for me when I was younger.
Wow.
For years.
Was there something that I mean, I'm sure you've been able to assess this now, but was there a disconnect you had to reality or a disconnect from your parents, or did you not feel seen or accepted for who you were? Was there something going on where you felt picked on by kids?
No, I mean, the only thing that I can really pinpoint it to is, and this might have like correlated and transformed who I am today, is I enjoyed having control. I enjoyed having control of what I was able to put in my body and how much I would work out, how much I would sweat to lose weight. And I loved having that control, this obsessive, controlled mindset and motivation.
Yeah.
I do think I have funneled that level of obsessive control into building a business, into chasing and working towards success. I think I still have that in me, but I've just funneled it into something else.
Into a healthier version of yourself. I mean, did you feel close to your parents, or did you have like disruption in the family dynamics, or?
No, I mean,
your parents were there, they were great, they were happy, they were loving, and
family was great.
yeah.
Extended family was great. There was no issues. But for some reason, I just wanted to control a part of my life that I haven't, and I've never reached out or used therapy to discover maybe why.
Interesting.
Which I could possibly do and should do in the future, maybe
That'd be powerful, yeah.
to discover why.
Because I wonder if you felt out of control somewhere, in life, or you didn't feel like you had control of certain things, and that was the way to gain control.
Right. And I'm sure there's something there.
Yeah.
And at some point in my life, I would love to uncover it.
How old are you now?
32.
Yeah. When I hit about 30, that's when I started to ask myself all the things that I went through, why I went through them, and how to start healing those things. And it was extremely powerful. And I'm still on the journey. It's not like you've always arrived or something, but I think it'd be really inspiring for you to try that and explore it and just revisit and start mending that kind of relationship you had with your younger self.
Right.
And maybe you've already, healed that relationship from your 13-year-old self, from what you did to your body, but I'm curious how much more peace, how much more abundance, how much more love you would experience and feel and create in the world, and how much more you'd be able to serve from a place of healing. I'm not saying that you're not healed, but from a place of awareness and understanding and compassion for your 13-year-old self. So
I think something I've learned as I've gotten older, especially since having a kid, is throughout life you go through these possibly traumatic experiences, and you think once they are over, they are just swept under the rug and gone, but
no.
you do see them resurface at other parts of your life in possibly different forms, and it makes you want to go back and let's fix some of these previous issues to set us up for success in the future.
Man, I feel like it's going to make you an incredible father when you start that journey for yourself. And I'm not saying you need to do it right now and do it on your own time, but when you start that journey, it's going to make you an incredible father, husband, even more so than you are already, because I know you're already great at those things. It's going to give you a level of focus and energy that you probably never felt you had. And I know you have a lot of it, but it's going to give you this even more renewable energy and peace. So maybe this is the year for you to do it,
Possibly.
Maybe it is. I'm gonna follow up with you on this and see how you're doing with it. So
what I have found, and this is mainly through social media and building a community, but I will apply this to building my family as well, is people appreciate vulnerability. And for the longest time, I didn't share the story of my eating disorder when I was younger because I was embarrassed.
Of course.
I was embarrassed. I was afraid. How would people view me having this, what I viewed as a weakness early on? But from the moment I shared it years ago, the outreach initially was immense. Of many people, men and women, going through an unhealthy relationship with food or an eating disorder, and just knowing that they are not going through this alone was absolutely powerful. And I think more people go through it than we realize. Probably even people that are closer, very close to us, are going through something similar. But I've learned through this, this journey of the last decade of my life that sharing vulnerabilities connects you with people that you might not have previously.
Yeah. What was the greatest lesson both your parents taught you growing up?
Hard work. My dad's side of the family, they were dairy farmers, central Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Talk about hardworking people. I mean, you're waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. to milk the cows every day. And then before you go to sleep every night, you're milking the cows again. Mm-hmm. There's no days off. Your life depends on the crop and the animals. Learned a lot through my grandparents. My mom's side of the family were mainly military. My grandfather, my uncles, my cousins served in the Army, Air Force. So I think that was a very interesting dynamic growing up of having, two different families where hard work was the foundation, honest hard work, and serving in two different capacities. I learned a lot from watching them. And they never had to tell me, Nick, you need to work hard to achieve X, Y, and Z. I just observed. I just watched.
They modeled it for you.
Yeah. Right. And for me, that was extremely powerful. I learned that from my dad. My mom was, she was in the school system. She supervised and taught special education. She was involved with Special Olympics, very involved in our community, helping less fortunate families. Yeah. She was extremely involved. And I learned so much from my mom.
I don't know when I started asking this, it's probably the last couple of years, but imagine a scale of self-love and inner peace. 10 being, you have full acceptance and love for yourself and all the parts of your past and present. And you're at complete inner peace. 10. 1 being, miserable, hate yourself, no peace ever. Where would you be on that scale right now?
Maybe a 6. 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're at a F on a scale of 1 to 10 in inner peace and self-love?
I think a lot of it, and it's interesting building something great over a decade has been so rewarding. I've gotten so much from it. But as an entrepreneur, I think what I'm still trying to navigate and figure out is, what is fulfillment? Mm-hmm. What is enough? What is being satisfied and being present? Something I'm actively trying to navigate and work on is, as someone who I would categorize myself as a high achiever. I always view projects, campaigns, objectives as not what I've done, but how could I have done better? Why, we're here, why aren't we there yet?
Right.
And I would argue that a lot of entrepreneurs experience that struggle, that internal struggle. And for the longest time, for me, that was fine. That was normal. I was okay with that. It actually all changed when my daughter was born, where it's like, work was priority for the longest period of time. Now I have this family I need to take care of, this family that I want to be present for, this family that, I want my daughter to love me and want me in her life by her choice, not by force. So it's really made me think of how do I become more present? How do I become truly happy with where I am now and what I have accomplished, not what I've yet to do. And that's something I'm currently trying to navigate. I think part of it is having the awareness of, I know it's an issue, but what will bring me true, pure happiness?
What is that?
It's my family. It's being content with what we've built and with what team and where we're at now and the plan that we have in place to get us to the future of where we want to be. I'm a person that's always thinking 10 steps ahead. And with that, I sometimes struggle to live in the present, embrace the present, appreciate the present.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to work towards.
What do you think it would take from you in order to create, 7, 8, or 9, or 10 one day of that feeling internally? What would need to shift? What would you need to let go of? What would you need to step into?
This is something I'm actively doing in the business right now. I stepped down from the CEO role about a month ago, put a very talented operator, Kat Thomas, in as CEO of BPN. That was the first step for me in getting me as Nick Bear in a place that's a 7, 8, 9. It's delegating and elevating. I'm naturally a doer. If things aren't getting done, I'm going to do them myself. I'm going to dive in because I know I can and I know I will. Part of that is when you're the owner of something,
You're responsible.
you're responsible and you care so much and it's your baby and you spent 10 years leading up to this point, getting it here. I think a lot of that is delegating, putting the right people in the right place in my life to help me facilitate the life that I want to live with my family. Stepping down from the CEO role was part of that. That was step one. Now it's continuing to build out my team so that I can step away. Every entrepreneur deals with this, like giving up your Legos, giving up responsibilities that you love doing, even if your time is better spent elsewhere. Delegating and elevating others to operate in those roles and letting go a little bit, having a pulse but letting go, will get me to a 7, 8, 9.
It's good awareness.
It's tough.
And you're starting that process.
We started that process and it feels really good. So I had to be at work by 6 a.m. So I'm waking up at 4:30 a.m. every morning and I'm getting to work at 6 for a quick meeting. And then by 6:30, we're stretching out for morning PT. And we do that for an hour. And then be from 6:30 to 7:30 or 6:30 to 8. And then I would